Oh God, Dane.
Persona 3 hardly gets the recognition it deserves. This game changed RPGs as we know it. Much like the Dark Souls series that have spawned Souls-like games, you are now seeing many Persona-like games popping up in the market as well. The mixture of social sim and dungeon crawler was truly an innovative idea that really caught on after the release of Persona 4, but you would be remiss to skip this flawed gem. And that is exactly why we're here. Persona 3 may have introduced a lot of what made this series amazing, but it also included some questionable features. The largest of which is the inability to control party members. The AI in this game isn't the worst, but it ain't pretty either. There are tactics you can assign to each character that changes their determined actions slightly, but overall, it can be quite a mess. Also, there are 3 versions of this game: the original Persona 3, Persona 3 Portable, and Persona 3 FES. These updates tried to fix some of the flaws and succeeded in some, but overall the battle system and its AI didn't change too much, so I'm not going to differentiate between the titles. Also, stick around to the end to hear the best late game team. Now with all that out of the way, let's get started with the tier. Shinjiro is a strong character that lacks much when it comes to performance, but all of this pales in comparison to the fact that you can't access him for the second half of the game. He's in and out of the party pretty quick, making him the worst endgame character. Duh. The other member of the tier is Koromaru. Koromaru has a weakness to Hama, or instant death spells. This is not good, at all. His only decent stat is agility, but funny enough, he's almost built like a mage minus the useful stats. He also lacks strength, which hurts him in the DPS department. Overall, he's an unfocused and terrible character. The low tier. First up on the low tier is Ken. Ken would be in the tier if it wasn't for his passive Spearmaster ability and his late game healing ability. But there still isn't much here. Ken has the opposite weakness of Koromaru to 2 Mudo instant death spells. An unfocused skill pool coupled with mediocre stats land him here in the low tier. The final member of the low tier is Junpei. Junpei is the victim of poor scaling. His poor magic stat and the lack of endgame heavy attacks like God Hand really hurt him. He does have Marukukaja. Man, Persona games are the worst. He does have Marukukaja, which buffs the team's defense, and that's pretty helpful. The mid-tier. Yukari fills the traditional healer role, with her and Ken learning the only party-wide healing spells in the game. She also is a focused wind mage, which makes her useful in certain situations. But oh man, just wait for her AI to forget you completely in the heat of battle. I'm not sure which AI is worse, hers or Donald's from Kingdom Hearts. Set her to full support and pray that she heals the right person. The next member of the mid-tier is Mitsuru. I'll probably lose some people here, but that's okay. Mitsuru's AI is pretty much a meme. Wait. Yes, it is a meme. Her AI will cast Marin Karen continually unless she is put on full assault, so your dreams of using her healing spells will be down the drain. But with that said, she isn't bad at all. The combination of mind charge and spells is broken in this game, and as long as the AI behaves, she is a perfect party member. The top tier. The top tier. Okay, so I wasn't sure about adding the MC into this list. I've done it in the past with my Persona 5 and Persona 4 lists, but seeing as the P3 MC has all the perks of a Persona MC, along with being the only controllable party member as well, makes it really a no-brainer where to put him. So that means that the top tier holds only a single member, and is one of the best Persona characters of all time, Aegis. Aegis may have ended up in the God tier if it wasn't for the fact that she's one of the last characters you pick up, and she really only becomes super useful in the end game. But man, when she picks up God Hand, Dairahan, and all of her buffs, she becomes dangerous and equal to the best party member in the game. But how could she not? Seriously, Aegis is awesome. The God tier. The final member of the list and single member of the God tier is Akihiko. Akihiko beat Aegis out of the God tier because he is useful throughout the entire game. Amazing debuffs along with lightning elemental magic and secondary healing spells as well as the best physical skills make him just as good as her in the end game. But again, pretty much from when you get him all the way to the end game. That seems like a God tier candidate to me. Okay, as for the optimal team, here it is. You're going to want Aegis, Mitsuru, and Akihiko on Assault. The MC can fill the gaps. The main tactic is to optimize the 3 party members' AI for attack, which is the most consistent AI, and just pray you don't get Marin Karen spammed. Persona 3 Reload's episode Aegis DLC was recently released, and with that, I can finally get to our tier list. Persona 3 holds a big place in my heart, as it was one of the first games I remember following from the announcement trailer all the way to release. This game changed RPG history in more ways than one. The remake is everything I dreamed it would be, so I hope you're all ready to answer the question, who is best in this absolute RPG gem? Now, ranking will take in a few considerations. As always, we'll be looking at stats and abilities. We'll also be taking into account the new mechanic, Theurgy, which is more or less a limit break with character-specific requirements in order to charge the meter. Now, there was a lot of balancing done to fix some of the skewed characters from the original, but one thing has not changed. And that is that the MC is absolutely busted and doesn't even compare to the other party members. Because of this, I'll be leaving him out of the ranking. I'll also be considering each party member's usefulness in the DLC episode Aegis. Everyone but Aegis, as she is a god of God tier. She's possibly better than the MC, so that really won't be taken into account. If you love RPG content, why don't you consider subscribing and checking out our benefits for Patreon members. Also, stick around till the end for a bonus list. Let's start with the tier. Shinjiro is a temporary character in the title and as such finds himself at the bottom of the list. But that doesn't mean he isn't good. Shinjiro joins the party at a much higher level than your other party members, and by spamming his bloody charge and keeping his HP below 50%, you will be able to then spam his Theurgy for boss wiping damage. Unfortunately, he's only around for one chapter and is not available in episode Aegis. The low tier. Junpei. When I played the game, Junpei was shut up. Junpei is consistently inconsistent in both the base game and in episode Aegis. Sure, he has the potential to do some of the most damage of nearly any character aside from Akihiko, but this is heavily RNG dependent. Junpei's ability to buff his crits is nice, and if the player's lucky and connects their attacks and also crits, then you'll be able to abuse his Theurgy. But here's the catch. When considering all other party members, he just isn't optimal. Aegis does slightly less physical damage, but she's tanky and consistently hits. Akihiko can do more damage and does it consistently. Even Koromaru is a better choice because of his mixture of damage and support. In the end, Junpei isn't dependable enough to land any higher. Next on the low tier is Mitsuru. But Mitsuru was my best character. Shut up. Mitsuru, all things considered, was nerfed from the original game. She loses Ice Amp and her healing spell, which is crazy all things considered. She's a single target ice magic DPS and debuffer. Now, if she can hit with her debuffs, then she instantly becomes god tier. Marin Karen, Eerie Sound, and Tentorafu are all devastating in a fight. That is, if the enemy isn't immune. Unfortunately, most bosses in this title are immune to those spells, meaning that Mitsuru's Rakunda debuff will be her only means of charging her Theurgy. Her high magic stat and single target ice damage does pair well with Yukari's concentrate Theurgy. So in summary, as long as the enemy isn't immune to ice damage or her debuffs, and you aren't in need of AoE damage, Mitsuru is great. In episode Aegis, Mitsuru's usefulness is slightly better as debuffs are needed for the DLC's difficulty, but her faults are about the same. The mid-tier. Ken got the second biggest glow-up in Persona 3. Where he was practically useless in the first game, now he finds himself as the second best support in the game. Ken has the Karn spells, which reflect physical and magical damage. He has Dekaja, so he can strip enemies of their buffs. And if you manage his regenerative SP, keeping it under 50%, You can utilize his Theragies, including his second Theragy, which fully heals and revives the entire party. Now, in the base game, you'll rarely use this, but in episode Aegis, Ken becomes one of the most important characters in the game. Had he been given the ability to cure status elements, he might have landed in the top of the god tier. The final member of the mid tier is Aegis. There are a few issues holding Aegis from being truly magnificent. First, she no longer gets God Hand, the strongest physical skill in the game, which makes her damage potential worse than the original, and her skill kit sucks in the first half of the game. With all that being said, Aegis is practically unkillable. She's the party's greatest tank, and with Dukunda can strip enemies of buffs as well. Her passive buffs her physical skill, which almost makes up for the loss of God Hand, and she possesses the two best party buffs in the game, increasing the party's attack and defense. In episode Aegis, Aegis is the best character, possibly in Persona history. She's a wild card character, much like the other MCs, which can equip any Persona in the game. Like I said, considering this would shoot her up to the god tier, despite her mid-tier uselessness in the base game. The top tier. Koromaru may be the single most surprising change in the remake of Persona 3. Unlike the original title, he's extremely useful and one of the best party members in the game. First and foremost, Koromaru has Debilitate, which is the best debuff in the series. On top of this, he has a Theragy that casts Charge on the entire party, buffing their next attack. He also has Revolution, which increases critical chance. This pairs well with Aegis, Akihiko, and especially Junpei. In fact, the only way Junpei becomes viable is if paired with Koromaru. Koromaru's biggest faults are his Theragy Charge requirement, which only increases if he's at 50% health, and how quickly he burns through SP. Now, in episode Aegis, Koromaru does get nerfed slightly, which is a shame, but he's still very useful for mob battles and can be viable if given the right strategy. The God tier. First on the god tier is Metis. This is cheating just a little bit, as she's not a party member in the base game, but unlike Shinjiro, she is around for the entirety of episode Aegis, and my goodness is she busted. She has no elemental or physical weaknesses. She has one of the best skill kits of any party member that isn't an MC. These include multiple elemental attacks, physical attacks, and support skills. The only downside is her Theragy Charge and how she struggles against the final boss. But that being said, she's just too insane not to place in the god tier. Next up on the god tier is Akihiko. Sure, he's not nearly as busted as he is in the original title, but he's still amazing enough to land in the god tier. Akihiko is both a physical attacking beast with the best physical skill in the game, God Hand, and a magical DPS as well. He's less useful as a support than a DPS, but still has some useful skills for buffing the party. What really sets this guy apart is completely abusing Theragy Charge. Akihiko's Theragy will charge each turn that he has a buff on himself. So as long as you or your party members cast a buff on him at the beginning of the battle, he'll consistently be charging his Theragy. If he or another party member also cast a buff on him, he'll get an additional charge. This makes his Theragy one of the easiest to spam in the entire game. Oh, and I forgot his absolutely busted passive, Buff Amp, which increases the effectiveness of any buff applied on him. This means that given an attack buff, Akihiko can reach the highest damage numbers in the game. In episode Aegis, Akihiko is still just as broken, meaning that he'll probably be a required party member for both the base game and episode Aegis. And speaking of required party members, the final member of the god tier and top of this list is the goddess of support, Yukari. I'm not sure what the devs were thinking here, but Yukari's kit is so broken it isn't even funny. This mainly comes down to her Theragy Charge and her second Theragy. You see, Yukari's Theragy gauge charges whenever you heal a party member, so spamming healing spells not only make your party unkillable, but increases your Theragy gauge as well. Her second Theragy is a party-wide concentrate spell, increasing all magic damage. In a team of Akihiko, Mitsuru, and a magic-built MC, this is devastating. Oh, and if spamming healing spells sounds expensive, don't worry, as her passive skill decreases the cost of healing by 75%. Now that's just one of her uses. Another is Mepatra, which removes status effects on the party. Mepatra becomes a must-have for episode Aegis, as enemies cast debuffs relentlessly in this title. Yeah, her healing isn't quite as useful in episode Aegis, but Mepatra makes up for it. In the end, Yukari is the single best party member in the game, period.
I mean, Persona 4 Golden won by a landslide, and why shouldn't it? This is easily one of the greatest games ever made and contains an awesome cast of characters. So today we will be examining the 7 different playable party members of Persona 4 Golden. We'll be looking into skill set, stats, and overall usefulness. And if you're interested in the Persona series, catch my videos on Persona 5 Royal and Persona Q for the 3DS. Anyways, let's get started with the tier. Persona 4 is pretty balanced and as such really has no party member that deserves to be in the tier. So let's move on. The low tier. First up on the low tier is going to be Teddy. Teddy is by no means a bad character. He is obviously well-rounded to ensure that you can meet the challenges of the early game, which is great. He also gains some decent buffs, and his Bufu spells man, Bufu, that is a weird word. And his Bufu spells do decent damage. But his healing is outpaced by Yosuke and Yukiko. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is no reason to use him over any other character.
What is this thing? A monkey? A bear?
Next up is the lovably confused Kanji. When you first gain Kanji, you'll probably be surprised at just how strong he is. Kanji can rake out the physical damage while also dealing some decent lightning damage as well. Madara Kaja and Primal Force are amazing skills that can carry your team through some tough battles. The real problem with Kanji is as you approach the late game, he becomes obviously less useful and ultimately replaceable with Chie. This is only if you're trying to optimize your party. If not, by all means, use him to your heart's content.
What am I supposed to say to this?
We're reenacting the birth of Venus?
Yeah, I'm ready to be born, damn it.
Sicko!
The mid-tier. The mid-tier has a large bulk of our party members. This is because all 3 of these characters' usefulness depends heavily on your playstyle. First up, we have Chie. Chie beats Kanji out of the mid-tier because of her late-game skill pool. Power Charge, God Hand, and Agnirasta, and Agnirastra, wowzer, Agnirastra. And Agnirastra solidify her place as the best physical attacker in the game. This does present a problem though, as almost the entire game she is lacking in these extremely important skills. This is the reason she didn't rank higher, but if you're patient, she will eventually be worth the wait.
Whoa, maybe you are my type.
Give me a break.
Next on the mid-tier is Yosuke. As the protagonist's official mouthpiece, Yosuke is just that, a perfect companion to the hero. Yosuke can heal, attack both physically and magically with great effect. On top of this, he has some amazing support and debuff skills, most notably Dekaja, which will take buffs off of enemies. But being honest though, if you're using both Chie and Yukiko, then he isn't entirely necessary. His healing and attack become second, more like a safety net.
You guys crossed the line. Definitely.
Last on the mid-tier is my Persona 4 waifu, Naoto. It's super unfortunate, but no matter how I stacked it, I couldn't place her higher. Naoto is a mob clear, with her amazing skills like Naoto is a mob clear with her amazing skills like Megadolaon, damn it, and Mind Charge. She has access to the elemental skills which make her more useful in boss battles than in the vanilla version, but here's the catch. She's your final team member, and building her out to be optimized in late game takes a ton of work. Does this stop her from being placed in my team? Nope, but it might for others.
Is this for real? Wait, isn't this measured wrong? Anyways.
The top tier. The single member of the top tier is Yukiko. Yukiko is everything but required to play Persona 4. She is your healer and mage tank. She can easily deal out the highest damage in the game and can keep your party alive while doing it. Burning Petals is a 4th tier spell that obliterates enemies. Mind Charge piled on top of this? Well, there is only one other character that can outdamage her, and the comparison is unfair to say the least.
Yukiko-san?
How else would you hug someone who's sitting down?
Come, Kozeon!
The God tier. Look, there's no debate on who is the most broken character in every modern Persona game. Because of how the series is set up, each hero from Persona 3 to Persona 5 Royal has the ability to learn any skill and use any persona. This extends to the hero of Persona 4 as well. He can outdamage, outsupport, and outheal all other party members in the game. Also, I think he's a required party member as well, so yeah, no debate here. And that's my list. If you're looking for the optimal party, I'd say it's the hero, Yukiko, and Chie with all endgame builds. The 4th party member is entirely up to you. I personally go with Naoto, but Yosuke is just as viable.
You know, I've been making tier lists for over 4 years now. A lot can change during that time when it comes to video games. New strategies, DLC, and updates can often shift how good or bad a playable character can be. This is why I don't usually cover brand new games like I did with Persona 5 Royal back when it came out. My tier list back then was created shortly after its release, and going over it now, I felt it didn't actually represent the true placement of the party members. And that's why I took it down, and we're going to redo it. Today we'll be examining the 8 party members of Persona 5 Royal. As is my stance with these titles, I don't rank the MC of Persona games because they're so different than any other party member. Just assume they're God of God tier. In order to place a party member, I'll be looking at their usefulness in battle, equipment, character-specific skills and traits, accessibility, and synergy with other party members. If you want to see my previous list I created, you can check it out on my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Also, if you're new, be sure to subscribe for more video game tier lists. Oh, and stick around till the end for a bonus list. Alright, with all that out of the way, let's start with the tier. Akechi's greatest strengths in this game are his almighty spells and debilitate. He has good physical damage and pairs well with Ryuji's skill set. Now, the reason this guy lands on the tier is his accessibility. He's only available in one earlier dungeon and the final dungeon, and he sucks against the final boss. Akechi also lacks natural charge, and by the time you get him, Joker or another party member will already have debilitate, making him easily replaceable. Next on the tier is Morgana. Morgana is given to you from the beginning as a sort of early game support. He's a pure healer with his build focusing mainly on restoring HP and cutting SP costs. By the time you reach mid-game, there is absolutely no reason to use him. Makoto and Joker's healing can easily cover the party, making the need for a full-out healer obsolete. To add insult to injury, once the party learns Meteoron in the late game, Morgana's trait becomes absolutely useless. The low tier. Kasumi's skill set is far superior to Akechi's. She has amp, increased crit ability, great synergy with party members. She has an incredible support raising everyone's crit chance. Kasumi's faults are the same as Akechi's. She's accessed during the final dungeon and will receive her final persona pretty much at the end. Because of her late recruitment, she's unable to learn charge or concentrate, making her overall a less than ideal party member. The mid tier. Haru excels as both a magical or physical attacker and is the best gun wielder in Persona 5 Royal. What truly makes Haru viable is her unique skill Life Wall, which blocks a single attack for all party members. This essentially makes her one of the best tanks in the game. Now overall, physical attackers are better than magical ones in the late game, and her physical build isn't the best. She also lacks charge and concentrate, and because she comes so much later than other party members, you need to avoid the Jazz Club until she joins the party. I also need to mention that if paired with Anne and Makoto for a magical build, her Sai abilities are great and dish out some awesome damage. Yusuke possesses many flaws in Persona 5 Royal. He doesn't have charge, which means you are dependent on the Jazz Club to get him better skills, and in order to make him viable, he's completely dependent on Ryuji. With that said, Yusuke is one of the better early game party members with some great equipment, and in the late game he becomes important for a physical damaging team consisting of Ryuji, Joker, and one other party member. This happens to be one of your best team compositions because of the sheer damage it can dish out. Yusuke's physical damage is some of the highest in the game, and though his ice spells lose their usefulness, freeze can be helpful at times. Overall, because of support, Yusuke is an endgame must. The top tier. Makoto is one of the best jack-of-all-trade characters in RPG history. She can do anything, and she does almost everything well. First of all, due to a stat glitch, Makoto with her final gun is able to max out her stats long before anyone else. Her support is amazing. She single-handedly replaces all of Mona's healing while still being able to attack both physically and magically. She's incredibly fast and increases the ailment casting of characters like Anne or Yusuke. Checkmate is a debilitate move that hits all enemies, and Atomic Flare can dish out incredible single target damage. Her SP consumption is a huge problem, but aside from that, whether you're running a physical team or a magical team, Makoto is almost a must for every party composition. The God tier. Anne is underestimated in most lists of Persona 5 Royal. Her trait, which heals SP, isn't very useful later on in the game, and endgame resistance to fire is very common. But if you're only using her for casting fire spells and healing SP, then you're using her the wrong way. First of all, Anne's late game skill, High Energy, casts Concentrate on the entire party. This alone makes her the single best party member for magical damage. If put in a team with Makoto and a magically built Joker and Haru, she can devastate enemies. But none of that would put her in the God tier. The main reason she's here is for the status element, Sleep. Early on, you'll receive Dormino, which can put a target to sleep. Later, you'll get Lullaby, which casts sleep on all enemies. Because of Anne's insane luck stat and sleep resistance being very rare, Anne becomes a god. Put an enemy to sleep and technical using any attack. It's a strategy that works from beginning to end and is highly effective. The final member of the God tier and top of this list is the absolutely busted Ryuji. Ryuji makes any physical party member the best character in the game. His trait, Raging Temper, buffs physical damage by 40% in the early game and 80% in the late game. That is just absolutely nuts. God's Hand is a destructive attack, and Mataru Kaja in the mid game is great. On top of this, Ryuji is incredibly tanky and naturally has charge. The only downsides I can think of is a lack of stat boosting weapons and his electric element being overshadowed by stun guns. Overall, if you slap on a physical Makoto, Yusuke, and Joker, Ryuji makes this the most optimal team in the game. And that's our list. How do we do? Who's your favorite party member and why? Thank you to all my Patreon members for their support, and if you would like to request your own tier list, consider becoming a pro member today for only $5 a month. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you all later. Bonus round. Best dressed C's members, go! Number 10, Mitsuru's summer garb. Number 9, the MC's butler outfit. Number 8, Yukari's maid outfit. Number 7, Akihiko's winter garb. Number 6, Ken's swimwear. Number 5, Mitsuru's sexy armor. Number 4, Yukari's summer garb. Number 3, Mitsuru's swimwear. Number 2, Fuka's sexy armor. And number 1, Junpei's C's outfit. Bonus round. Top 10 best dressed thieves, go! Number 10, Haru's dancewear. Number 9, Kasumi's leotard. Number 8, Akechi's dark suit. Number 7, Kasumi's Christmas outfit. Number 8, Anne's swimsuit. Number 5, Ryuji's Christmas outfit. Number 4, Futaba's swimsuit. Number 3, Anne's red latex suit. Number 2, Futaba's Christmas outfit. And number 1, Joker's dancewear.